Okay, Facebook and YouTube. First of all, good afternoon. Today's video, and I know you're probably wondering what's up with the hat and the this and the that, but today's video, I'm actually going to be talking about something different besides the plants and the fish. And if you remember my very first, my mission statement video that explained the purpose of my YouTube channel, I did say that at certain points, I would be dealing with issues, you know, besides just the plants and the fish, that I would talk about other subject matter as well. Now today, I just want to talk about confidence actually, because I feel in today's society, everything is very robotic these days, especially with social media. It's almost like one size fits all. There's not, seems like personality, just different little changes that I feel that I'm noticing that people are basically not true to their self. You have a lot of people that put on fronts. You have a lot of people who they feel like if they give into peer pressure, that's confidence. So they feel like, well, they're doing it, I'm confident. No, you're not. You're a follower. True confidence comes from being true to who and what you are, whether other people like it or not. And just to kind of give a background on myself, I was raised in Northern Ohio. I was born in the 80s, so that was coming on the tail end of the civil rights movement. And I feel like there were still a lot of undertones in society back then, because like the particular place where I grew up at, I would say, and I'm not trying to make it like about race or nothing, but I would say it was about 80-20, and I was part of the 20. So growing up, I feel like a lot of people like in the community, they were nice to me. I had a good upbringing, so there ain't no sad story here. But it's the fact that I was able to. You could still feel certain undertones, like just different little things that's presented through the media, the news. Everywhere you look, you're getting these statistics that you're more likely to be lazy, you're more likely to be a criminal, you're more likely to have 1,000 babies. All of these things, if you're not careful, they can weigh on your mind, and without even realizing that's what you're doing, you become like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, luckily for me, my parents would not allow us to do that. We were not allowed to do that, and our parents did encourage us to simply be ourself. Okay, so and then speaking of that, not only just so much the 80% community, something I want to talk about actually is the 20% community, which is the black community, which is where I come from. Something that, and maybe this doesn't exist in all places. Maybe this was just where I grew up at, because if you're not solid in your identity, yourself, it's easy. Basically, what I'm getting at is self-hatred. Because you hear it so much in the community. If you're not in the community, you won't understand what I'm talking about. But you hear so much about people being Uncle Toms, or you talk white, or if you use proper English, or if you enunciate your words. Oh, you sound white, or that such and such think he is such and such. You have to be able to find it you have to be able to look within yourself and be like, look, this is simply who I am. It's not about being better. It's not about being worse. It's just simply who you are. And that's something I kind of wish that my people would get out of. we've got to stop hating on other blacks who, who maybe they do have proper English. Maybe they don't carry themselves with a certain swag that you would typically so-called get in the hood. No matter whether that's true or not, it's still it's not even about just black, black. I'm just using this for an example because at the end of the day, people are people in my book. That's how I live. But we got to get out of that because it causes more harm than good. Self-hatred is when you teach a person to be ashamed of themselves and that they're not good enough, it leads to other things. Like even, and you gotta be careful because I'm not here to talk for something or against it, but even, I'm gonna even say just the whole gay thing. Now this is where parents gotta be careful at. And I'm not going to say for it or against it, but this is what I will say. If you have a child who has certain tendencies, like maybe you're noticing, like, oh my goodness, they seem a little, do you love that child or do you tell him how dirty he is, how evil he is, how even God doesn't love him? Is that the way to do it? Because what will end up happening, what you'll find out is that an otherwise decent person who is full of love, who is full of bright ideas, who's full of color, who wants to conquer the world, one day you look up and that child, who's now a teenager or a young man, is creeping around behind dumpsters. He can't love in the light. So now what he's doing, he's loving in the dark. Okay? And everything that comes with it. So this is where the whole down low thing comes from. This is where sleeping around with multiple people comes from. This is where the whole drug addiction thing comes from. Because since you're not allowed to love openly or in the light, you have to creep around in the dark. And like I say, I'm not here to promote any lifestyle or I'm not here to degrade it. I'm just saying, because we're talking about self-love. And a lot of how a person feels about their self starts with childhood, or it starts with your parents. And then from there it goes to your brothers and sisters, community, school, blah, 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 blah. It's very important to let a person love themselves. Don't teach them how to hate themselves. Don't teach them that God don't love them. And I did use the whole gay thing as an example, but it's not even just that. There's so many other areas. Okay, just like me, for example. You see this? I have a gap. Now, when I was never really self-conscious of it because my mom has one, my dad has one, my nana has one, which is my mom's mother, and then on my dad's side, my aunt has one. Now, of course, when you're little, you hear kids say stuff like, oh, you little buck-toothed beaver, or, yeah, the things that kids say, because kids are haters. Like, especially in elementary school, their kids are haters. They don't even mean it that way, but that's just it's just how it is. But one day, I looked in the mirror at this big old gap that you see, and these somewhat crooked teeth, some of them. And I was like, dude, when you were in the womb, did you have a checklist and be like, this is how I want this, and make this tooth this crooked, and do this and do this? Last time I checked, you don't do that at all. So why should you feel bad? Why should you apologize? Why should you live your life at a standstill over something you cannot control? I had to, for me, I want to say sorry to myself because from 0 to 34, that's what I did. I kept myself at a standstill as if I was the guilty party. What did I do wrong just for being alive? How are you so bad just because of that? But once I realized like certain things couldn't change, certain things wouldn't change, and we ain't even talk about sex. I'm just saying in general, just everything, looks, voice, mannerisms, your general demeanor. You can't control that. You can't. Cause trust me. If you could, I would be a living testament because I tried hard, hard, hard. I use God. I use religion. I use self-hatred. I use guilt tactics. All of that don't work. Does not work. And this is what I want to say to someone out there: like, never be sorry for what you cannot control. And all people know themselves. Like, that's like me. If a person came to me with a list of stuff, some of it I'd be like, yep, did it, did it, did it, did it, did it. But then other stuff I would be like, I didn't do that. I couldn't control that. Okay, so once you know that, why feel guilty about it? Why be sorry for it? When you have confidence and love for yourself, even if you got to learn it over time, you stop feeling sorry. Now, something else, another example of me learning to love myself, I guess, is payday. You might be sitting there like, what's he mean by that? I used to be a person when my checks would come in, because I have a pretty decent job. It would be checks where you get it, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars at once. But I had all these bills. So it was like as soon as I got it, it was gone as soon as I got it. So what I did, instead of like always being upset and angry and write my checks like you're mad, what I would do is as soon as I would call for like my balance, they'd be like, okay, you got such and such, such and such. The first thing I would do, and I made it a habit, and I still do it to this very day, check my balance, and then I take myself out to eat. Because I'm doing something to show love for myself. I've been doing all this hard work and getting up, doing this, doing that, being away from home. I'm going to get something out of it. Or else, what's the point? One house, it was about Big Boys. So I get that check. I'd be at Big Boys, get my breakfast. So I moved to another house. It was a sushi place, maybe 1 minute the other direction across the street. As soon as I would check that deposit, sushi time. I'm not paying a single bill until I take care of myself first. And I'm like that now with everything, even relationships, jobs, people, family. I love my family to pieces. But I'm at a point now where when I see, if I'm the only person that's applying myself and I'm the only one doing the phone calls and, hey, when are we going to meet up? There's a certain point, since I love myself so much, if we're not meeting somewhere in the middle, then we just don't meet. Because if I'm just giving and getting nothing in return, that is self-hatred. When you have to put yourself out, expose yourself, give of yourself, you always coming out your pocket. If you don't pay, nobody pays. When you're doing that, it seems like, oh, that's Uncle Terrence. Oh, that's how he is. He's such a giver. No. I'm being stupid. Basically. I'm being stupid, and I'm not going to keep doing it no more. As long as you apply yourself with me, then hey, I'm in. But after the 10th, 12th, 15th, 13th, 20th time of me always having the money, no, not no more. Because I love myself. I love you too, but I love myself. So if I'm giving something, you will be giving something. And that's not offensive. That's not forgetting where I came from. That's not being better than the next man. That's not who does he think he is. That's called self-love. And I would admonish all of you out there, never give more than what you get in return. You're not doing nobody no favor. Matter of fact, you're teaching people bad habits. That certain things are okay and it's not. So I know this message is kind of all over the place. I talked about a lot of different issues, but at the end of the day, the whole point is loving yourself enough to be yourself and never being sorry for what you cannot control. Ever. So the way to love yourself, the way to get other people to love you is to love yourself unapologetically. You do that, I promise you, you'll look up one day and you'll be like, man, I'm surprised. I thought I would always be by myself. I always thought such and such, such and such. And you're going to look up and you're going to find that the love that you feel from within has flowed out. And you didn't even have to do nothing for it to happen. So just remember that. Don't lower your standards. Never. Family included. Friends included. Husband and wives. Boyfriends and girlfriends. Whatever. Keep a standard. And love yourself. All right. Be blessed.